Welcome to the very first episode of Fit Frame of Mind. I'm Karen and I'm your hostess today. Today I'll be speaking with the incredible Sharon Sharp, who proves that it's never too late to rewrite your story. Just 2 years ago, at 57 years old, Sharon changed the trajectory of her future and became a pro card-holding bodybuilder. We dive into what sparked her journey, the habits and mindset that took her to professional status, and the discipline it takes to transform at any stage of life. Sharon also shares her insights on navigating menopause, strength training, and practical tips for the women who want to take control of their health and fitness no matter their age. This is one you won't want to miss. Let's get started. Sharon, thank you so much for joining me today. Please introduce yourself. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
My name's Sharon. I live in New Zealand. And I've been married for 36 years to my childhood sweetheart, which has been absolutely amazing. And he's my biggest cheerleader. And I have two grown-up girls who are living very independently. And just come to a stage in my life where I've been able to take my fitness to another level and undergoing all the menopausal years, etc. And coping with all that has been a learning experience, and I've been just loving it. I've gone into competing, which has been my thing over the last 2 years, which all the protocols are the same as for anyone with like midlife health situation.
I was inspired by your talk with the Autumn Athletes Not Done Yet interview, and I'll put a link to that on this post as well. So it's a new thing for you. How did you get into it?
I'd spent many years at the gym, in fact, most of my life at the gym, sort of dabbling in different areas, did a bit of actually aerobic instructing for quite some time, actually, and had ventured into the weights room, but 3 or 4 years ago, with being locked down, we had basic equipment at home, and I started with that. And I just came to a point where I just felt like with retirement, my husband's got lots of hobbies. I always had my gym, and of course we were locked out of the gym at that time. And I found my coach, actually, who I'm now with online, and became extremely inspired by him and his wife, and just made the big leap to make the big goal of just furthering my fitness, seeing what I could achieve with that, and taking it to the stage.
Is it fair to say, obviously, things have changed dramatically in the last few years as to how you train? Because you mentioned you were very active, you had that fitness background. How did your training back then compare to what you're doing now?
Probably about 5 years ago, I upped my level with strength training by taking on a PT, which was a huge venture into actually learning how that all goes with building muscle. And I achieved a lot with him, but there was no nutrition side of it, which I actually did a lot of research myself online and learned all about macros and how they work with the body. But it really wasn't until taking my coach on and undergoing a build process, which doesn't actually have to be just for competition. If anyone's wanting to seek muscle growth, it's a highly recommended thing. In fact, it's one of the main things that I do recommend for anyone, particularly in midlife, is to think about your calories and getting them to a good place, so you're metabolizing well and your body's in a fantastic area to grow muscle and respond accordingly. My coach actually taught me that it's like, staying with the main basic lifts, not even just compound lifts, but you don't have to be fluffing around with lots of bits and pieces and jumping from machine to machine. It's just targeting muscle groups, working on those muscle groups. And with my coach, it's now been more structured for me, going into my show as to what my body needed to respond to. For me, is always my lower body, and just targeting that area more times a week. So it's like, for me, 2 days a week, I do an upper body workout. The rest of the 3 days remaining, because I do a 5-day a week training, is lower body.
And how important is cardio for you and in comparison to what you used to do?
Yeah, I do laugh at that. It's become a bit of a thing for me, the cardio for midlife athletes. I'm very passionate about not overdoing cardio. I actually don't do any myself. I know in competition there's a place for it coming into prep. I don't actually need it myself. My body just tends to want to cut into my muscle and drop weight too quickly. But the normal experience for a midlife female going through menopausal years is that your cortisol levels will respond much differently. It will not work for us like it did when we were younger. And it's a hard lesson for anyone to actually want to accept until you go through the process and realise your time's better spent with strength training and working at progressively overloading, which is another area I'm quite passionate in. It's fantastic being in the gym, and if you're going in there for social reasons or to get that nice, good endorphin rush, but if you're wanting to achieve any further with your physique, progressively overloading, keeping a track of what you're actually training week by week, and by the next week you're either upping a rep or you're upping a weight, so that your body has some different stimulus to react to. It's going to say, hey, like she's really she's really wanting something to happen, and you'll feel it yourself too, working to what we call an RPE, rate of perceived exertion, going from, you might be be interesting for people to say, ask themselves, how many more do I think I could actually do? That's a really interesting one. We are trained to work at the beginning of a block to about an 8, which means you might have 2 more reps to get out. And by the end of the block, you want to be working 9 to 9.5, which means pretty much to failure. So your body is going, I've had enough of this. I just, you try for that last rep and it just can't work. So that's what we class as progressive overload. And it doesn't mean heavy weights. It means for your body and what your body's used to, what your body's going to say is like, yeah, I've had enough. We all come from different stages of fitness, and your body will react no matter what the weight is. People online for me are asking, what weight are you using? And I do let them know, because people are so passionate about wanting to know, but do not gauge it on what someone else is doing. We're all so individual with our fitness needs. The basics are the same, the overload, progressive overload, and the lack of excessive cardio, hopefully, works fantastic. When I say no cardio, I definitely do step work. I do daily steps, 10K a day, but it's the treadmill and the running and the things like that, which I don't see a place for that for people over a certain age, and certainly when your hormones are changing, going through menopause. And I always back that up. If you love it and it's your thing, I would be the last person to say, stop it, stop all that cardio, even though people know I'm like a big, cardio, no, no, no. But if you're loving it, certainly incorporate it, but just be aware that if you're coming to a stall, that might be something to look at, to perhaps take out of your schedule, or take a little bit out anyway.
Great advice. And then how important is recovery? So you've mentioned you're sort of training 5 days a week. Where does recovery fit into your schedule, and what does recovery mean to you?
Recovery is paramount. It really, really is. Your muscle needs to rest and recover and grow. Feed it well, give it the rest, and it will be so kind to you. I'm feel fortunate being now retired, which was, one of these reasons I took on the competing goal, because it's a lot. You're working hard and you're tracking food, and I'm checking with my coach often. I can do all that in the morning. I prefer to get that all done, walk my dog, put my time and energy into my family as much as I can, because that's a hugely important part to keep my mind happy. And the afternoons is the time that I like to take. I manage to take the rest time, whether it's that I'm just logging something on social media, or putting my training on stories, or catching up with friends for a coffee, going to get a massage. All those things are so important, not just for your body, but your mind. Your mental space is so huge in the whole thing. I mean, if that's not there, if you haven't got that aligned, then the rest of it is not going to flow as well as you may want it to.
Yeah, brilliant. So important. And I think just touching on sort of that myth of, cardio being the ultimate fat burner. Can you just explain a little bit more about how the muscle that you have is creating that fat burning effect in your body, and how it actually makes you feel in terms of your strength and fitness?
Yeah, well, the building the muscle obviously is going to be far superior to the cardio. Um, the more lean muscle you carry, the faster your metabolism is going to work. It's There's just so much science to it. It would be impossible to actually put it down now. And I think most people probably know the basics of that, you know, the more lean muscle you carry. And it's very hard, especially as an older athlete. It's a very hard process after menopause, which comes into the equation a lot. But I'm 59 now, so I'm 10 plus years through I'm way past the postmenopausal stage now. But it really is no joke at all. It's a something for me that I just felt I lost all quality of my life. And I feel so thankful that I've continued with my training for the majority of my life, because it helped me to a huge degree through menopause. I kept all that going when everything else was a complete fog. I lost my parents in quick succession right at the same time. And, so grief and all this, for me, I've just felt like I lost quality of life, was like a really hard thing to accept and navigate. And I think everyone has a different experience with it, which is where the problem lies, because everyone is looking for a cookie cutter answer to how to get through this time. And it's not going to be that for everybody, but hormonal balance is, I believe, is just such a huge part of that. And however people are seeking to do that, be it through a professional under prescription or through natural ways, I think it's something that people really need to find a place where they can get the help with it, because I think it's wasted time to be sitting in that fog where, for a lot of people, when you're feeling like that, it's like, who feels like getting up and going exercising? For me, I think I just have this mental power that has always, it's been so much a part of my life that it couldn't. In fact, it made me feel better for the fact that I'm just going to go, because mentally I know I'm in my space. I'm in my second home, basically.
Yeah, one of the big things with perimenopause and menopause, obviously, is that weight gain, and a lot of women do struggle with that. Is it something that you've faced at all, or is your lifestyle really supporting of you to not be in that place?
Yes, my lifestyle, it was my saving grace, honestly. And like I say, because it was from such a young age I started, and I'm so lucky to have a husband that's been fully supportive the whole way, no matter, and I'm pretty intense with it. It's always been a pretty much, well, I wouldn't say non-negotiable, because I'd never put my family or anything in the way of me saying, oh, I've got to go to the gym when there's something important that's there. But it's helped me through. And as I mentioned, with losing my parents and losing that sense of quality of life for me, my appetite reduced a lot. And so therefore I didn't actually gain much weight. In fact, I probably went the opposite way. So, as I say, everyone will have a different experience with it. I know the norm would be that, it's a lot of weight goes around, particularly midsection for women. And it's at a stage, I think, for a lot of women, they feel, well, I'm at this age, so this is what it's supposed to be like. And I really am very passionate about, it doesn't have to be. You really have to desire and seek the change. You have to really want that, but it's completely achievable. I mean, for me, I'm coming up 60 this year, and I'm not stopping anytime soon. It keeps my mind so happy and healthy, and the rest of it comes with that.
Fueling right is so important. Where do you sit with your fuel? And also, obviously, from a competitive level, but for the average listener, what's your personal experience with regards to nutrition and fueling your body?
Oh, it's the last 2 years, it's the biggest thing I've learned. I knew, like, probably 2 years prior to starting with my coach, that if I wanted to gain more muscle or grow, which is what I wanted to do, I had to eat more food. I just couldn't do it. I spent my life doing the opposite. And I think there's many that would be nodding their head saying, yep, that's me. And I still, to this day, speak to women often, like, well, no matter what age, and they're fixated with that and how much they're eating or how little they can eat. So from undergoing a couple of build processes, which is extreme for the average person that's wanting to change their body composition. But to just increase your calories, like your maintenance calories might be sitting at a ridiculously low rate, and your body's just saying then no more, no more. It's not going to respond anymore. So to increase your weight, and it's important to find out like what your maintenance weight may be or should be and work towards getting to that. I mean, I started this journey and I'm now eating at the same weight, 600 more calories a day, probably 700 more calories a day than what I was back then. And actually for me, it's quite a lot of food to get through. Sometimes I'm like, especially when I get, my weight, my calories will be going up from here. So it gets a little bit like, okay, suck it up and get another meal in. But you should be able to, a lot of women are doing that and starving themselves and feeling hungry and denying themselves their favorite foods. They do not have to do that. Sure, you have to look at your quality of your food for the majority of the time, but to get your calories to a good, healthy level, your body is going to thank you so much for that. And once again, it will respond in kind and say, okay, let's go. If you were training on top of that, especially as a newbie, like a person new into it, your body's just going to respond, and you'll get to that stage where you're just not going to be able to get enough of it after a while.
And if I can just also ask, what specifically did you change in your nutrition that gives you that energy and that ability to train so hard and recover so well? What are some of the tweaks that you had to make?
A big tweak was carbohydrate, and my coach discovered that for me. I was a low carbohydrate girl, and the carbohydrates are actually my biggest portion of my daily calories because I do macro track, and each meal, my 5 meals a day, each one has specific macros for me to follow. Um, that's for competing, but normally still very important to track macros and have a ratio, and you could just do that over the day. But my body just becomes a furnace with carbs. I can't say that, I'm not saying that will be the same for everyone, but please don't be scared of them. And my body has just responded so well to them. The growing started happening. Fats are kept fairly low. And I would consider for most people it's important to keep a track of that. The quality of a lot of fats aren't the greatest, and I think we all know that. I mean, I like to use a lot of avocado and more natural type, in your meats and things like that, and it's part of your protein, as my fats. And sometimes I actually struggle to get the fats to the level I'm allowed to have, but it's sort of become ingrained in me, I think. But yeah, the carbohydrates, and the more I get closer to my competition, actually, it's my body's going more, more, more. So it becomes a ridiculously high amount. But for in day-to-day life, I think, please don't. I would never naysay any eating plans. I have my thoughts about a lot of eating plans where I don't believe that they're great, but I'm not here to create controversy on any of them. Just to say this is my story that wouldn't work for me, and this is what's working for me. And if people were, I'm not a coach or anything, but if I ever go into that line, it's certainly something I will be encouraging people into. I know I needed a coach to up my calories. I needed to be accountable because I'm a protocol girl and I like to be accountable. And if you're telling me that, I needed to look at that scale and watch it rising. And it was so empowering. It was, I loved it. My husband loved it. He's like, oh my gosh, you look so strong and full. And I think that's what women don't realize, that actually clothes fit better. Things look great. And you feel your hormones are dancing. They're just so happy about it all. So I just want it for everybody.
Fabulous tips and fabulous motivation and inspiration. Sharon, how has your mindset changed now as you head into almost 60? Did you ever imagine that you'd be feeling like this at the age of, 58, 59?
I really didn't. I did expect that I'd still be training to some degree. I didn't actually think about it a whole lot, to be honest. I know it was just part of day-to-day life, and I never considered like, oh my gosh, one day I'm going to slow down, there'll probably be more injuries, or my mobility might be compromised. But I haven't even really got to that stage yet, with stretching, the strength training, keeping active, walking, that's all gone such a long way to helping me with that. So my mindset now is that I'm just thankful for all the decisions I made and the continuation of the habits I put in place when I was young, pretty much.
Fantastic. And any tips for you personally, what you've changed in terms of supplementation, perhaps even on the simplest form of protein powders or other vitamins and things like that? What's been
Yeah.
working well for you?
Yeah, protein powder I do use, as it's a good protein powder, protein bars. They're not the best form of protein to have, but at times when you need to get that protein in, they're fantastic. Probably the protein powder more so than the bars. The bars can be filled with a whole lot of extra stuff that you really don't need. They might be really yummy, but the quality of the protein isn't great. I introduced creatine, and whenever I'm asked, like, what would be your top supplement, I always say that. So many benefits. There's more and more research going into it and more information coming into the benefits, not just for fitness and training. It really has a lot. So that's been a part of my life for probably 3 or 4 years daily. The BCAAs, like things like that for training, I will use I would use, but I don't think that they're completely necessary. Magnesium, zinc, fish oil, vitamin C. That's my mainstays. Like they are an everyday panic if I don't have them, because they're one of the first things that actually started balancing me out when I first started going through menopause. And I I got some help. I went to see a professional, and that was one of the first things that came up. Are you on these things? Regardless of blood tests, like they're a lot of benefit for females, I believe, and they're available, and they're not a big cost to actually have as a staple in your day-to-day. Get up in the morning and take these things, and they're not an instant fix. That over time you'll just notice that your body becomes more aligned, and your sleep, like magnesium helps your sleep. Bedtime routines. I know a lot of females have problems with sleeping. I've been just amazing with that for a number of years now, which I don't feel guilty about, but I know I hear so many, it's just resounding the amount of the females didn't sleep well. There's protocols with that too, just, apart from having good supplementation, it's the wind down period, going to bed at the same time every night. Try not to make it too late. Screen time. They're also well known and like rolled out so often, but it's for a reason, because they work. Find that quiet time, and in the evening, just find maybe your quiet time just for you. If you're in a busy household with children, a lot of noise and that, I've never really handled that a lot. I've always will seek a time just for me in a day, even when our children were young, and that just helps your mind wind down and get into a place where it's just ready for sleep. And man, there's just nothing better than sleeping well, is there?
Absolutely. And so important for your muscle repair and recovery and brain function. So,
Yeah.
yeah, super important. You've got some really solid tips there for any listeners. If anyone out there is listening and they're in their 40s, 50s, perhaps even 60s, and they're really hesitant, they think they're too old to start lifting weights, what would you say to them, or what piece of advice would you give to them?
The first thing I would do, and I don't like to plug social media a lot, but there are so many inspirational people online. Just find some people that really resonate with you, that you're finding they're doing things that, yeah, I could probably incorporate that in my life, and contact them, ask for information, seek information. And the biggest thing of all is to really find your why. I'm very big on why and want. Find your why. Why are you wanting this? Okay, I want to feel better about myself. I want my physique to change. And then you've got to really want it. And I have always felt like that myself. If I really want something, I'll actually go probably a bit overboard with putting all those protocols in place. But they've worked well for me. And I think once you're on the path of doing that, that in itself will drive you forward, because you're starting to see the results, and then it should just snowball along. And things just get better and better. That is the hope anyway. But that's the advice I would give. Find people that inspire you, and are behind you, going to encourage you. Surround yourself with the right people, and find that really deep place that's going to make you put all these things in place. There doesn't have to be a whole lot of things, just do it one by one. Prepare yourself, be a prepared person. If you can set yourself like that up, being prepared for what you need to do, then you're setting yourself up for life, pretty much.
One last question, Sharon. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of valuable advice, what would it be?
I ponder this one because I feel a bit of a fraud, because what I would say is just continue on this path, and which is it's just pretty much what I've done. And that sounds like I'm sitting here with a halo on my on my head. But honestly, I felt back then I found my thing, and I did. I desperately needed something, and I found the gym, and I thought I found my place. And it's just set me up, and I've met so many people through that path, and all the different, I instructed aerobics, and then I've joined another gym, and then I've met so many people along that path with that same passion, that it has really made my life. And my husband's been into his fitness as well. He, at the moment he does a lot of cycling, and he keeps really busy with that, but he's always had that passion too. And I think that's been great for us, that we've had that common interest, and that he's totally behind me with what I'm doing and my crazy goals that I'm taking on right now. But I would never have dreamt at that age that I would actually be doing what I'm doing now and stepping on a stage in a little bikini. But I just love it. I'm thinking there'll be a natural progression from this, which is things like this, talking to you, getting the word out there. Like, I'm an older athlete. It's not a very common thing. There's certainly plenty of us, but I think if we can all band together and share that word, and give knowledge to people, it's seriously lacking. I think that the knowledge that, and I've realized that from people contacting me, is that I kind of think that everyone must have a basic knowledge on how this all works, but it's not the case. And I understand that now, and I just can't wait to help people with that. So, that may be something in the future for me to consider as I'm getting into my 60s.
Absolutely inspirational, Sharon. And as a competitor myself, it's really motivating to see that anything's possible at any stage of life, and you really are doing the best possible thing for your health. A lot of people look at competing as being so extreme, and obviously there is that element, but really building that muscle, having that discipline, having that positive mindset, I think really says a lot about character and what you'll be able to do many years into the future. So I really take my hat off to you, and it's an honor to speak to you today and hear your story and share your story. How can people find you if they want to hear more about what you're up to? What's your Instagram handle?
Absolutely. I love the conversation. I'm very interactive on my social media, and I love that it's growing and I'm capturing the right people there. I'm on Instagram under Gym Tonic NZ. So feel free to find me there, reach out to me, ask me any questions at all. I do really enjoy it. I put a lot on my stories. I pretty much share my process right from the beginning. It was the good, the bad, and the uncomfortable. There is plenty of the uncomfortable, and I think it has helped me to go through those uncomfortable stages by sharing it, ironically, with many people that I don't know, but I'm meeting many there. It's just helped me. There's been so much encouragement, so much positivity, and it's driving me forward with it. So get on board, come and see me.
Keep inspiring, and good luck with your next adventure and competitions. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Fit Frame of Mind. I hope you found this conversation inspiring, insightful, and maybe even a little eye-opening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please drop them below. And if you or someone you know has an incredible story to share of transformation, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out via the email on the screen now. Don't forget to like and follow my page for more fitness and health tips, workouts, Zumba choreography, and plenty more to keep you moving, motivated, and feeling your best. And just a quick note, This series of interviews is for information and entertainment purposes only. The stories and advice shared are based on personal experiences and should not replace professional medical, psychological, or fitness advice. Always consult a qualified expert for your individual needs. I'm Karen Green. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.